Welcome everyone to Therapeutic Astrology Podcast by me, Mana. Today I am joined by spiritual teacher and can I say channel for dragons, dragon channeler. Welcome to you, Jack Morrigan.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
You're so welcome here. Channeling dragons. How interesting can it get? It's it's like such a hot topic for me. Am I saying it right, or is it only some dragons that you channel? Is that more accurate?
Yeah, I mean, so I started channeling maybe 10 years ago. I had a big Kundalini awakening while I was in a dream, actually. And if anyone knows about Kundalini awakening, it's a very, very intense, energetic experience. Before that, I didn't believe in supernatural beings, other realms of existence. I was atheist and was a researcher, like a junior researcher at a couple of universities in the UK.
Whoa.
Uh, yeah, so it was quite a shock to my system. It took many years actually to integrate it. That's a long story, like kind of behind that. But um, yeah, so I'm I think it's important to say that I'm not the kind of person who believed in these things.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be real. Like I liked fantasy and sci-fi stuff. But then after this Kundalini awakening, where I went through a kind of near-death experience. I went through a tunnel of darkness into light at the end, classic kind of tunnel of light experience. But then I merged with this light at the end. Um, and when I came back into my body, there was loads of energy moving up and down my spine. And over the following months and years, like I started noticing all these new abilities, basically. Like my awareness had just been turned up. It's like someone just taken the dimmer switch and just like turned it. And so I could see energy like I'd never seen energy before. Um, and it was what I see, like some people see lots of different colors and things, and that can give them information. But what I see is like that same golden light that I had merged with. So everything that I look at, if I kind of choose to look at it, it's always there. Like everything is just like humming with this golden light. Um,
Like still or just after?
it's never stopped. Like the moment that it started, so it's been like for like 10 years, you know.
Wow.
So if I close my eyes, like I'm seeing like lots of like flashing golden light and stuff. It never gets turned off. And that might sound like distracting or overwhelming, but like you'd be surprised what you can get used to. Like
Yeah.
my brain basically just filters it out most of the time. It's so normal.
Uh,
But what's useful is that light becomes brighter under certain circumstances. So when I'm talking with somebody and I can tell that their heart is opening because I can literally see the light of their heart shining out of their body. Like it happens quite often when I'm um, running groups and usually what happens is somebody is sharing something very vulnerable, um, and they're in quite a challenging state of mind, you know. But from my perspective, what I'm seeing is this light just like shining out of them because what they're saying is true and it's like opening up their heart. And it gets so bright that like I can't see their face. Like it's just light. So that's always like an indicator to me that we're kind of moving in the right direction.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, like all these things like kind of came on very suddenly, like having out of body experiences, meeting angels, and
And
you know,
what happened with your position as a researcher?
well, like I continued. Um, I was definitely distracted. Like
Yeah.
I was much more interested in what was going on in me. But I was working at the Institute of Psychiatry, which is a psychiatric research institution in London. So, my boss was a psychiatrist. So I was like, I'm not going to share about any of this. I shared with one person, the person who I happened to be my main colleague. She would like go to India to go to these retreats and stuff. And like she was like the most spiritually open-minded person there. So I could talk to her about some of the stuff, but some of it I would share it with her and she'd be like, what are you talking about, Jack? Like that's not happening.
How is
It's
it the
like
quote? How is it the quote goes that it's like the same water the mystic and the insane person swims in? It's
mm,
something like that, you know?
yeah, there's a fine line.
Yeah.
And mine was like kind of crossing over into like if it wasn't psychosis at times, it was close to it, you know. Because it was just very, very intense to go from being an atheist to having all of these different experiences. Also,
Yes.
I don't think I'd ever been in therapy, and I had a really troubled childhood. So that merging of traumatic experience that was unprocessed in my body, like, and then this really like intense and also quite sort of special spiritual stuff going on. And then so I went through this period of being like really like up and down, thinking like I must be really, really special. You know, this I must be
Mhm.
really, really amazing. This is the thing that I've always wanted. I can now use this to, you know, for people to love me.
Oh.
And I think there's a lot of people who teach um, who are still very much in that. I think, you know, that those childhood wounds have never really been looked at and never really been addressed, and then they go into teaching roles, and then that's why we get some really messed up um, spiritual communities, in
I've
my
heard that
opinion.
I've heard that critique in your podcast, your YouTube video. So
Ah,
I wanna return to that point actually.
yeah.
But this is like insane. You are an atheist and you experience this spiritual awakening. And
Mm.
do you think did you worry you were insane? Did you consider it to be a psychosis at any point?
I don't know. I don't think I did. Um, I, I mean, there was, like I've said about this in podcasts before, like, because, you know, I was having all of these out of body experiences. I was meeting angels and goddesses and stuff. And that, like, it was overwhelming, but it was also really beautiful and wonderful.
Mm,
Um, and my mind could just about handle that because I had a kind of, I guess because of the way that I'd been raised and what I saw as kind of spiritually okay and not okay. Even though I wasn't a spiritual person, I think that was still kind of implanted into me in some level. So angels is fine.
mm,
Saints, ascended masters, you know, all that kind of stuff, that's all fine. Deities, yeah, that's just about okay. I can just about be okay with that. But I was walking through London and like loads of stuff was happening. Like I remember I was walking through St. James's Park. I used to go on this walk all the time, St. James's Park, and then up to the Houses of Parliament. And I could feel like somehow my body was like cleansing energy in this area. And I remember walking behind this guy and I was just looking at his energy field, and it was just like this sort of very pristine white outline. And I was just sort of mesmerized by that. And I look up and I'm looking at the main abbey that's there. I can't remember what it's called now. But in my mind's eye, I saw this big, like bloated, demonic looking being, like on
okay.
top of, like on the towers of the abbey. And you know, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. So it sort of looks like I'm looking at my own imagination, you know, so I'm not taking it like 100% seriously, but I'm also like, oh, that's interesting. You know, it matches kind of my personal view of the church, like and certain things that it does. So maybe it's just this might not be true as an objective reality. It might just be something within my psyche interpreting something.
Sure.
But what I saw was that big bloated demon thing, and then this green dragon flying towards it and like breathing fire on it. And then this dragon flying towards me and coming close to me and saying, I'm your dragon. And that was the point where I was like, no, like that's crazy.
Like
You
one
know,
too far out.
yeah, like this is, you know, this is just me making this stuff up and it's some sort of like egotistical fantasy, you know. Um, and I, you know, talking about kind of madness and where spirituality and madness kind of cross over,
Yeah.
there is a fine line there. And a lot of the kinds of experiences that can come along with this type of like kind of third eye opening, it's playing out through the context of our own psyche and our own experiences and our own preconceptions.
Yeah.
So it can veer into very egotistical, aggrandizing places. It can go into very paranoid places. It
Mhm.
can go into very like beautiful places. But in a sense, what it's doing is kind of mirroring back our own psyche to us, but just with the volume turned up a lot. Um, so yeah, then yeah, I was just like, I'm just making this up. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, I'm just making this up. It's a nice story. But it was maybe 8 years after that that I was in Sicily. And then I don't know, do you want to hear the whole like sort of how did I connect with the dragon
I mean,
story
do
or
you feel like telling it, or do you feel content like, oh, I've shared it so many places? Where
I mean,
do
I've
you
shared it in a lot of places. Like maybe I don't need to, I can just briefly say it for anyone
do
who kind
that?
of is just
Do that.
following along.
Yes.
Because it's nice with this context, especially because I think it helps to understand that I was actually very resistant to this idea. I'm not like waving a banner saying I'm the special dragon guy, come and listen to me. I'm actually quite timidly holding it back and being like, I would much rather not be the dragon guy because
Hmm.
it's pretty out there.
Yeah.
Um, but this dragon came up to me, introduced, well, he didn't even introduce himself. He just said, I am your dragon.
Yeah.
He was green. That was an important detail. And then years later, I'm in Sicily, just feel called to go to Sicily, um, which, if you don't know, it's an island off Italy, which is home to Europe's largest active volcano, which is Mount Etna, um, which I was like, oh, I'm going to go up that volcano. Shortly before I did, this woman that I knew on Facebook was offering free sessions. I'm like, I'd like just logged in, I think, when she was offering them. So I was like one of the first people who saw the post. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I could do with a session. And then she was like, okay, we have the session. I can already feel in her energy, like, this is good energy. Like, this person knows what she's doing. I can trust her.
Hmm.
And she's like, is it okay if I go in your energy field? Yeah, it's fine. In she goes. And she's like, there's a lot of dragons in here. And I'm like, oh, no, like, not dragons. Like, I don't want to go down that road. Um, and she was like, there's lots of them, but one of them is closer to you than the other ones. And they're green. And I was like,
Man.
oh, for God's sake.
Oh
You know?
man.
And then like we had this conversation and it was a really good conversation. And like, I think she was sort of like helping me step into it a little bit.
For
Um,
sure.
and then I went outside and there was a rainbow across the sea. Like so I'm like looking at this rainbow, I'm like, okay, that's a pretty strong sign that this is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
I'd been speaking this language for a couple of years, just like this sort of made up language that I would speak and it would just feel comfortable. So I would like enjoy saying it, make me feel relaxed to speak
Hmm.
this language. So when I was alone, I'd just be like saying it. So when I went to the top of Mount Etna and I wanted to do a ritual, that I'd had a few delays, so I ended up going up there on Halloween, which wasn't my intent, but is what happened. And then I record myself doing the ritual and I'm speaking this language that in my mind I have made up into
Hmm.
the top of the volcano. And I feel great, like absolutely amazing. Like all of this like anxiety that I'd been holding just like disappeared. And I just felt so relaxed and happy. And I sent the video to a friend of mine. And she was like, oh, I know the language that you're speaking. And I was like, what? You can't know the language that I'm speaking. Like, I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
Um, and then she sent me a YouTube video and I watched it. And this guy is speaking like almost exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, but like the rhythm and everything, like, and these strange syllables, he's saying the same kinds of things. And I was blown away. I was like, how can that be possible? And then I saw the
Was
video's title was Dragon Light Language.
I was just gonna ask. So he was a dragon guy. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Okay.
that's when the dragons came in. Like when I was sat in my Airbnb going, hold on a second. I went up an active volcano on Halloween and spoke the language of dragons into the volcano. And then like this wall of energy hit me, and that was the first dragon that introduced himself.
Oh, whoa. So this was all because I asked you. This was all because I asked you. Is it specific dragons or is it like all dragons?
Hmm.
And the story is very, very illuminating around your whole process of that. So I'm assuming that it is a select few dragons, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I because there were quite a few of them, and they would introduce themselves, and then they would saying that they were different colors and that they were connected to different chakras. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
that's interesting. And they're all really different. They've got very different personalities, and they're all introducing themselves, and I'm getting to know them. And then one day I was like, well, if you're all a group of dragons, like you probably have a name. And like instantly they were like, we are the dragons of the rising rose. I don't know why that's making me really emotional. I don't even know why.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's wild. It's a crazy story. Like it was a
it
very,
is.
very wild time.
And now you have a website, a business, like your
Yeah.
service called My Rising Rose, just for
Yeah.
people who don't know. But this really hits you in an emotional place because it became your life, I could imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like I wasn't really that drawn to the rose in
Okay.
because I just kind of saw that as this thing that kind of spiritual new age women will talk about, you know. And it's like, well, that's not me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming from a different, very different direction. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what they describe themselves as. And I've learned a little bit about Mary Magdalene and like this different dimension of feminine spirituality. And I'm like, I actually resonate a lot with this. Like, I'm in a male body, I'm male and
Mm-hmm.
masculine, but I've got a strong part of this in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, they early on they were like, we're going to initiate you into dragon consciousness, and through you, we are going to initiate others, and we're going to call that dragon medicine. Um, and we ran dragon medicine. Like it was about 2 years after they said that, they it took a while to take me through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because initially their energy was intense, it was hard for my body to handle. But as time's gone on, it's like it's nothing. It doesn't feel like anything. Um, yeah, don't know where I'm going with this.
So, okay, good, because I got many questions. Maybe you get
Okay.
distracted because you can sense all of my questions over here. So just for practical reasons, I want to know, like you, when you stand, when there is a dragon, what do other people see? Can other people sense it?
Yeah, so that's been really interesting actually and really validating. Because I've met a few people who like I see things like in my mind's eye, so it feels like more kind of imaginary in a sense, but I can pick up on things. Um, but I've got a friend who can see it like the same as she sees people. It's
Mhm.
like super vivid, which is a double-edged sword. It's quite an overwhelming thing to be tapped into. I'm quite glad I don't experience that.
Mhm.
But she's had that for quite a while. And she was like, yeah, I can see this dragon around you and like describing it and stuff. And it's like, okay, that sounds about right. Um, so yeah, other people pick up on it.
Okay. Okay, pick up on it. But when you were describing walking behind someone who's like luminous white light, all of that, that was just like an ordinary day. Like no one could see that that was happening inside of you, right?
No, yeah, I mean, they would probably just think I was just some guy walking down the street, wouldn't know
Yeah,
that all of that was going on.
yeah, yeah. Mm, mm. I was just
Yeah.
wondering, I was just wondering where you were right there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of reflecting on it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's an interesting thing because right now, literally right now, I'm just in an interesting place um with everything, with spirituality, with life, with
Mm,
everything. Like the shifts that I've gone through have been evolving and, continuing to evolve. And like when I started kind of talking about the dragons a little bit, and I did some interviews and it blew up for a bit.
hmm.
And like people were calling me the dragon guy and like putting all this stuff on me. And it never really felt right. It like kind of
Oh,
felt like people sort of misunderstanding things, and trying to make something special out of
mm,
out of things which are really designed to take us to a place of like unburdening ourselves of the need
ah,
to be special. Um, and so in the last year or so, like I've been going through this shift where my attention has been moving away from channeling for me. Like I channel as a profession, like that's what I do.
yeah,
And I can do that when I need to. But
yeah.
internally, like I'm going through a very different kind of process, like a letting go of the ego would be an appropriate way of describing it, where it's like the self-object relationship between an internal me and a separate world is dissolving.
Mm,
Um, and that really kicked in about a week ago because due to going through some difficult times,
yeah.
which with I think something it just feels like something inside me is broken.
Mm,
Like it's just sort of snapped like inside of my belly. And what it
yeah.
is like this belief that the world has to be good, like
Mm,
that there has to be some sort of good outcome to the global situation and my own life. And what's broken is the faith that that will happen. And that might sound really negative, but it actually feels really liberating. It
yeah.
feels like because that's a need to control life. So I guess I'm sat here and I'm reflecting on all of this stuff that's
Mm,
happened over the years
mm,
and the place that I find myself in now, which feels kind of free, but it's still kind of broken. I'm in this
in
sort of broken freedom.
in transition somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, between phases of your life and your worldview, it sounds also. And yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I love your scorpionic energy of just to give it a name as an archetype, but it's this energy where even when you don't say anything, we can sense, others can sense, I can at least sense that something is still there.
Mm.
And you also have quite a bit of quiet actually on your YouTube channel, but I think maybe that's related to your channeling that sometimes there needs to be pauses. I just saw one where there was like a dragon that didn't say much or something like that. And
Yeah, some of them don't like to talk.
yeah, and so it's actually really wonderful to be in that space as well because it's like it's part of the conversation. I feel something is going on. It's just not there's not words with it right now, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I can see that in myself as well. I can feel the shifting. And when I'm channeling the dragons, I'm sure you heard them say this at some point. They'll be like, our words are the least important thing here. It's the energy. So what I'm really doing when I'm channeling them is I'm allowing them to move through my body. It's
Mm,
like I think of them as blood vessels inside of a cosmic body.
mm,
And I'm like a cell that's next to one of these blood vessels. And I'm just allowing the blood to flow in. I'm allowing their energy to flow in. And then other people can feel it like through my body. And that's like this sort of sharing of energy and sharing of um, awakened consciousness. Um, Yeah, and that doesn't need words. Like we could sit in silence, but most people can't really do that.
Yeah.
Um, so, I say words or they say words through me, but it's not really less necessary. Yeah. I mean, if you, well, the sort of perplexing territory that I'm in at the moment is that even the monitoring of my own awakening, the mind recognizing and watching and micromanaging my own awakening is like slipping away. Like that's the thing that's like slipping away. I've got a friend who talks very eloquently about this. He calls it releasing the threads. This moment when awakening has evolved enough that you don't need to be subjectively involved with it anymore. So
Mm. Mm,
your own
mm.
subjective experience of these previously very profound energetic experiences or relationships with dragons or deities or whatever it may be can start to fade away because there's no internal me that is having a relationship with an external um, being. Um,
Yeah,
this might be a bit too out there for people. I don't know, because this is quite rare. Like it's quite a rare level, and not that many people talk about it. But I can't really do anything apart from talk about what I'm experiencing.
exactly. No, I really appreciate it. And I'm also thinking, because I actually have it right here, I have a Danish solo podcast. Like no one here is gonna be able to understand it. But so I'm reading books like this one I'm showing you right now, Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill. And I mean, so that's obviously about this union of you with, uh, yeah, the divine. You can call it
Mm.
God. And so it reminds me a lot of about what you're saying. But my when I read it, I'm also like, is that even possible? There's something that seems so impossible, but here you are actually sharing that this is the experience you're going through, the phase
Yeah,
you're
and
going through.
I like it's um I'm in this group where people talk about this, like, and we're all sort of going through it in some different way. And one of the names for the group is post, like as in
After.
after.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's kind of pointing to what this is because it's not even like, oh, I'm ha union with God or it like the more this kind of sinks in,
I mean, so there are
the more it's
phases, right? Like the last phase in her mysticism would be union with God. But before that, you have to like forsake yourself and get rid of, in a way, your preferences. It seems a bit harsh to me, you know?
oh,
But
I don't even agree with that.
okay,
Like
okay.
so I don't have any problem with preferences or or the personality which has
Okay,
all of
so
those
that's
preferences.
actually not what you meant. You were actually talking about something else.
Yeah, I think so. Like, and
Mhm.
I get in, I got kicked out of a spiritual group on Facebook recently for daring to talk about the personality being completely okay within like awakening. Um, a lot of people think of it like that. Like you kind of have to get rid of the personality in order to discover this divine above, and that's what I view that as the ascended path of spiritual awakening. It's like this I forsake the body, I forsake preferences, I forsake all of that in order to, actually put preference into spirit and
Yeah,
God and
yeah.
above. And if you read like old monastics, there's like this old Christian monastic for the 14th century who wrote a book called The Cloud of Unknowing.
And that's the thing.
Um,
That's Evelyn Underhill. I think she edited that or translated it or something.
oh,
That's so they're connected.
yeah, like so that book, he says things like the wretched body, like he refers to the body as if it is something deeply sinful, which would have been quite normal, I think, within like Christian thought in the 14th century. Um, and he's like, you forsake the world, you forsake the body, and you do something which is more holy, which is to, well, like it. unite with God, become, united with God. But that's the ascended path. And for me, it's gone in the complete opposite direction. Like it's descended down into the earth, into my humanity, into the underworld where all of the hidden parts of myself are buried, and meeting them and reincorporating them into myself. And through that, actually passing through various different kind of thresholds, which and divides, like that. There's this something I experienced a long time that a friend of mine calls the abyss,
Yeah.
which is like, for me, it shows up as if the ground is like open below me and I'm just sort of hovering above this oblivion. It's like it's a very uncomfortable feeling, um, which I was in for about 8 years, I realized the other day when I was talking about it. Um, and it only went when I finally like had enough and was encouraged by my friend to face it, and then was like, okay, like kind of talking to oblivion and just saying like, if you're gonna do all these things that I'm afraid of you doing, then you had better do them. But anyway, like this
Mm-hmm.
all it's taking me to a place where I realize there's no actual true cause effect relationship when we get down into the deepest levels of reality. Like when people talk about God, generally what they're talking about is the ultimate creator. They're talking about some sort of very benevolent creative force. So something that directs cause and effect, you know, the ultimate manager, on a cosmic level.
Yeah.
And what happened was, as I started like looking at my own ego, my own separate sense of self, and realizing that actually that isn't truly what I am, something within me released. And then these realizations just started dropping in out of nowhere, where it's like, oh, everything just is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like, there's no creator that began it. There's no
Mm-hmm.
beginning and end. Everything is. And a lot of mystics will point towards like the infinite or the eternal level. And the only way you can really get to an eternal level is by acknowledging this, like accepting that everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, you've got beginnings and endings. Everything is finite. Everything's existing within duality. Like everything is creator, creating, created, you know? And to me,
Yeah.
that's what the old Hindus and Buddhists were talking about with the wheel of karma, like that you're constantly recycling through this path of creation. And that can take you to some really heady places, it can take you to the realms of the gods and the goddesses, and understanding like how certain aspects of creation happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are still identified as being this separate me in here that is interacting with this external wonderful or terrible world, you're still trapped in this karmic cycle. And it's what a lot of those, the great teachers from those traditions would talk about, where it's like, you have to eventually step out of that wheel. Um, and you do it by recognizing that the little me that exists inside of you that you think you are is actually an imaginary construct inside of your mind. It's a psychological process. It's like, it's fine that it's there. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not who you are. So you don't need to identify with it.
Exactly. And I mean, when I read these mystics from old times, I I recognize the wisdom, the similar wisdom as what you said, like leaving the identifications um and yeah, going from the little self to a greater self. But then they just have that really harsh tone of discipline and forsake yourself, and
Yeah.
there's this religious infiltration in it that I'm always reacting to. But I actually
Yeah.
think they might be onto the same sort of internal experience, just like you began by saying that we all project out in a way, like it is what we imagine it to be. In a way, you said something like that. Do you remember?
No,
Like
I can't
whatever.
remember.
I'm not saying it back directly, but it was like our own psyche. It depends on our own psyche what it is we experience spiritually as well.
Ah, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
but
this
I'm
so my friend he his name's Pierce um Salguero, and he has something called the multi-dharma model, um, which is where he's talking about these different threads. So he's saying there's the emptiness thread, the oneness thread, the psyche thread, and the energy thread. And that as we awaken, one or more of these threads comes online. And it may be that you start with the emptiness thread, which means that like you start noticing, say, that there's something that is witnessing everything that's happening.
yeah,
And I thought I was my personality, but actually there's this witness which seems somewhat distinct from this personality. It's observing the personality. And then your identity can switch to that witness. But then that can deepen and you can start realizing, oh, actually, the witness is also a type of like psychological construct. And that's also not an identity. And like, so you can follow this
mm,
emptiness thread all the way to egoic dissolution. And it gets more and more refined the deeper you go. But that's a very typical Buddhist ascended path. And it has certain qualities. And I started awakening because I watched a video by Eckhart Tolle, who is very much this type of a person, very, very much.
yeah,
And for the first year or so, he was extremely helpful.
mm,
I was really, really, I was getting a lot out of what he was saying. But as time moved on and I started going in this descended direction,
mm,
listening to his talks was almost painful. It was like
mm,
so misaligned with what I was experiencing. And it's like I was trying to still follow this emptiness path because I've been conditioned so much to believe that it's correct,
yeah,
not least because the first person who initiated me into awakening was in that path.
right,
But he doesn't acknowledge anything else.
yeah.
One of my criticisms of him is that he doesn't do that. He basically just says, well, this is what I've experienced. This is the way.
The way everyone should do it. Yeah,
Yeah, which, you can pick up a lot from spiritual teachers. It's very common that they will have a certain path and then will tell you that that is the path. But, my friend and I have been looking at this and being like, no, there's many different paths and they're all valid in different ways. But the
yeah.
one of the things that helped me to let go of Eckhart was actually astrology, because
Okay.
I looked up his natal chart
Oh, what is he? I don't
and
even know.
an Aquarius.
He's Aquarius. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like the
So
most detached air sign.
he's like really flying high. Yeah. And I've definitely heard the Scorpio in you more than once, and I've really appreciated it in the descent
Mm.
in your YouTube. Absolutely. I really appreciate that. Going deeper, I'm like, oh yes, finally something that resonates with me. And
Ah,
and even just your voice, Jack, I have to remember to compliment you on your voice. I don't know how you've tuned it like that,
yeah.
but
I
you
mean,
have an
it's funny. Like no one ever said anything about my voice. First, like 30 years of my life, and then and then suddenly people
uh,
started commenting on it, and like, no, I'm glad. I because I do all these like channelings and stuff, and I'll listen back to my channelings to help me tune in and like
yeah,
guide the courses and everything. And I'm like, yeah, this is really relaxing. Like,
yeah, it
I don't
is.
know, I don't really understand why. I mean, I think it's probably because, I think probably no one commented on my voice before because my voice is now speaking from this place of descended
Yeah,
awakening,
I
you
think
know?
so. I think so. It's connected like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just holding this theme that I wanted to go back to with you around. Well, you just mentioned again, like being thrown out of a spiritual group. You also said something about it in one of your YouTubes, and
Yeah.
and you said there in the beginning that some people, maybe it's too clouded with their own psyche, the way that they
Mm,
interpret their spirituality. So, do you want to talk about that topic? Because I'm really curious as to hear. Also,
yeah.
because the Scorpio is, and I feel I share it with myself. I don't feel it's only you. It's an archetype that we share for sure. Is that also to be able to see the limitations and the dysfunctions and see where change is needed? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing that broke in me recently was realizing like I cannot, but the break that happened was related in part to this group and what happened within it. Because like in short, like I went on this Facebook group. It's about non-dual spirituality, which is kind of where I started with an awakening. But it's always super toxic. You know,
Mm.
they people, everyone is trying to prove that they are the most awake person in the room, but nobody wants to admit that that's what they're doing, you know? So
Oh,
it's the denial is so insane and it's mad. Basically, anything that you say into one of these groups, you will be criticized for because it's evidence that you aren't as awake as the person who's writing the comment to you, you know? And I kind of tested that because I started and I just wrote a very human introduction, like, oh, I'm new to the group. This is a bit about myself, talked a little bit about my experiences, just kind of going through it. And some people were so hostile, like telling me to get out of the group. And it's like, I've just, what?
just just from introducing yourself.
Yes. Yeah. They're like, hi, not interested, get out, or something like that. And it's like, whoa, what the
What?
hell is going on? Um, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. One is it's triggering my fear of rejection. So I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I'm working with this. This is interesting. Let's stay here for a little bit and see what
Mm.
happens. So next post I do, I just like do a very short thing. And I just make this statement about non-duality, which I thought was pretty much universally accepted as something that would be true and that no one would really argue against. But they did. They were just like constantly arguing about it. Like criticizing and judging and explain like why their view is better than what I had said. And it's just constant. And then I did another post and I'm like, there's something wrong with this group.
Yeah,
You know,
sounds like it.
I think people are talking about being humble. People are putting lots of heart emojis in their
Mm.
posts, but what they're really doing is just desperately trying to be the best person, you know, I'm right, you're wrong, all of this stuff.
Mm.
And then that was the post where the admin of the group actually got in and was like, well, actually, you're the one being judgmental, and then banned me from being able to reply. They didn't actually kick me out of the group, they just prevented me from being able to reply to any of the criticism. And I was just like, wow, isn't it amazing? Like, like my spiritual teacher who I was with for about 5 years was a very close friend of Adyashanti, who is like one of the most respected teachers in the non-dual scene, who was being quoted by people in this group. And I'm
Okay.
like, I'm probably closer to this respected teacher, probably than anybody else in the entire group. And they have no interest whatsoever in hearing what I have to say because it goes against what they they want and what they believe. And they're not here because they want to awaken. They're
And
here because they
that's
want to be right.
and that's my question to you. What is it that you wanted to what is it that didn't they what is it that they did not want to hear that you had to say?
Yeah, they did not want to hear that you cannot stop being human.
Ah,
Like, you are always going to be human. You're always
yeah.
going to have ups and downs. You are always going to
Yeah.
have moments when you are triggered. Um,
Yeah.
you are always going to be human. And if you actually look at the lives of the people that you are quoting, you will recognize that there were many times when they were triggered, when they were
Mm.
pissed off about things. Like, my teacher used to struggle in this same community quite a lot. And one of the points that she was trying to make to help them see through this, she was like, she had ordained as a Buddhist monastic for a couple of years, so it was pretty well studied, and a Christian monastic for like 20 years. Um, so pretty well studied with all of this stuff, and she was like, well, you do know there was a time when like the Buddha, his best friend, tried to kill him by
Mm.
pushing a boulder down a mountain, and it just missed the Buddha. It broke his foot but it just missed him. Like, so there was a day where the Buddha nearly got killed by his best friend. And then she would say, I don't think that was a good day for the Buddha.
No.
But there's just people. But my point is, some people don't want to awaken, but will act like they do. Some people just do not care. It's not their priority. And what I realized was basically my own sense of powerlessness.
Mm,
I can't change this situation. I'm
mm,
actually, I cannot make the world the way that I wish that it was. And,
mm.
as you were saying with the Scorpio energy and being able to see things, it's like I
Yeah.
can see the problems
Yeah.
and I can present the solutions, but people don't want to do it.
Mm.
And then it's like, it just, that broke me because it landed more, it landed so clearly and it just broke something inside of me. And it's like, it's still breaking, and it's in my belly. But what it is actually an egoic structure within me, which is the belief that I can and should be able to control the world.
Wow, a big realization. Because control is great in one dosage, in certain amount we need control. Otherwise, trauma is what takes away our control, so that we become powerless. We need control. But I'm with you that that tendency can also be too much, especially when we hope that other people might do something else, because they're probably not gonna do something else no matter what we do, right?
Yeah. I like it. One of the things about Scorpio, at least in my interpretation, is that it's about, you go into the deepest, darkest places.
Yeah.
And if you're resistant to what you find, you won't really evolve. Like, so what's happening within me is it's like I'm going into those deep, dark places. It's a
Yeah.
very ugly thing. Well, the energy and the people in this group it was ugly, but it's a reflection of what exists. It's so pervasive throughout
Uh,
society.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, they don't want this. Like I want to stand up and be a leader and help people
Hmm.
on their way. And obviously there are people who do want this. Like I meet
Hmm.
people all the time and I work with people all the time who do.
Hmm.
But the vast majority of people don't. And I think what it's done is kind of shattered a belief that I had that humanity would definitely get through the coming years.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, it might not.
It
I
might not.
Yeah, we might not. This could be catastrophic. Like we could be facing an actual apocalypse,
Uh,
you know. And and basically I realized that my positivity has been a denial of the reality.
it
Well,
can
I'm not saying
be.
it will happen, but it
No,
could.
no. Yeah, that's when you said this the first time in the beginning. I felt that is what you meant, like that we can be so positive that we don't see the truth, and
Yeah.
uh, and we neglect some deeper layer. What I also feel we're talking about is what awakening really is.
Mm.
You know, there's the old way of doing it. There's the non-dualist way of doing it, apparently. There's the descent way of, like, what is awakening? What is it we're awakening to? In my understanding, it's just to become more conscious, and becoming more conscious is being more aware of my own patterns as well, you know?
Well, there's levels I would in my interpretation. Um, to me, awakening ultimately is the dissolution of the identification with a separate sense of self.
Yeah.
Um, so from that sense, from that kind of that deeper place, it's almost like not connected to how aware we are of ourselves or how conscious we are.
No,
But
but
those
it's
things are still important.
yeah, because the separate self is what is creating the patterns, the negative patterns or the distortions.
I think it plays a role in it. But I think there are people who have had some pretty significant dissolutions of the separate self, but there's still a personality there that is running based on the conditioning that was present. So,
Mm,
maybe if we lived in a society where most people had kind of like moved through that separate sense of self and society was built from that,
mm,
maybe then if you came out of it, wouldn't be very harmful. But as it is, we're conditioned by a society that is deeply rooted in the separate sense of self, and our
mm,
personalities are too, which I
mm,
think helps to explain why sometimes there are really incredible spiritual teachers who are able to articulate deep levels of understanding very articulately, who also have a very corrupted personality that is quite happy to use people and manipulate people and all those other things.
mm. So
I
this
hope
is
I'm not going too dark and
no.
despairing.
No, actually I appreciate it because, like you said, with the heart that's opening, I feel this is authentic and real, and that matters most to me in the
Mm,
whole wide world. That we can actually be able to speak about that, and because when we do, there's a chance that it's going to resonate, and it's going to be like, oh, I was also thinking about this. When you speak from that place, and not
yeah,
just go into a story that you've spoken about many times in a podcast, like, but that you share,
yeah.
that you dare to share this. This is excellent because what I'm thinking about right now is because I just got a new job. So again, I'm thinking a lot about how we are organizing ourselves and how our work life is not necessarily matching our deeper needs. Um, needs that it's hard to compromise, but in the workplace, many people do compromise, and then there are all the
Mm,
sicknesses and the stress and everything
yeah.
that you might miss because you are more alert than would be natural to you. And I'm speaking as a Pisces, so I definitely would love more rest than that is possible in a work. So I'm just like going into those considerations as you talk about like the whole world, that this is greater than just one group on Facebook.
I don't think I fully understand.
No, and thank you for saying it because often when I speak like this, I understand it, but I
Yes,
miss
maybe it's a
many.
Pisces thing. You're downloading something, and
Exactly. I'm like, I completely get it, but I haven't said like half of what I was thinking about. Yeah, it's just like the world is it's made of money. It's like the world have to go around in this certain way and it doesn't care too much about whether it's good for your emotional health.
yeah, yeah. It's a funny thing, I guess. Like, in a way, I feel like I've almost like I feel like I'm like falling off a cliff.
Mm. Okay.
But like I'm trying to like put words to it, like I'm breaking, like I'm
Mm.
broken, like something happened. Like I feel like I'm falling off a cliff and all of those things are so far away. Like I feel like I think the only way that humanity is going to get through is if enough of us succeed in truly releasing this egoic identity, um, which generally it's rooted in control, um, and kind of micromanagement, and it can take many forms, and it can take very positive forms. It can take it can take the form of wanting to restructure society in positive ways that benefit people. Um, the what I'm feeling is that the situation in humanity is so severe that even well-intentioned, egotistical, controlling efforts will not be enough to prevent, the coming disasters. I sound like a doomsday preacher, and maybe I am a little bit, but I'm sort of like, for me, something. that desire to make a good world for people is part of my controlling mechanism,
Yeah,
you know, that
I get
also
that.
has to break. It has to break, and it
Yeah.
breaking is so sort of devastating because it's like I'm not in control. I even my positive intentions, as good as that is, you know, and
Mm,
that's a better thing to
mm.
have. But I think something does need to break within us where we truly, truly, truly accept that we're not in control, and then we enter this other way of being.
Yeah, and you
And
mentioned that there was a liberation in that almost also.
yeah,
You don't have to have a good ending. You don't have to have a good life, I think
yeah,
you said. Like, so
yeah.
there's a release in that as well.
I feel like I feel surprisingly okay with it. Like the possibility of, you know, mass extinction. And I don't mean that in the sense of like I want it to happen on it in any way,
No.
but it's like it's almost like I've stared into the eyes of that beast, you know? I've stared into its eyes and it's
Mm.
shown me what it is.
Wow.
And like I'm not looking away anymore and I'm
Mm.
seeing it. And it's like, you know, that in some ways that's shattering, but at the same time, it's a relief because I don't
Mm.
have to pretend that that beast isn't there anymore.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. I mean, oh, what I'm anticipating is some kind of great shift in mentality. So you're talking about mass extinction, and that can also be in a symbolic way. I mean, I'm not trying to glitter it up, make it more pretty than it has to be, but that's at least my anticipation is we cannot go on with the values that we in this capitalistic society that are prioritizing things more than human nature.
Yeah. And
And
in myself, it's like the breaking that I'm experiencing is I'm letting go of one of the things that I have to let go of, you know, to move in. It's my own beliefs that the world has to be
yeah,
good and happy,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, and that realizing that actually, as strange as it sounds, those are bars of my prison, you
Ah,
know, the belief that it has to be like that.
mhm,
And there has to be some sort of like force that like kind of comes in and saves everyone, or like
mm,
something has to happen. It's actually a burden.
mm.
Um, and releasing that, you know, in a sense, you could argue is like the creation of this world, this new world. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm very aware that what I'm saying could sound very negative, even though in my own subjective experience it isn't.
I don't.
Um,
I mean, it's a process. You're in a process, clearly. So,
yeah.
and I appreciate processes like you don't go to the conclusion yet, because whatever the conclusion you're gonna say is something that you just like make up, and maybe it's right, but maybe it's not, because you're not
Hmm.
you're transitioning in a way. It's like you're on a journey with something, and you're feeling it's breaking inside of you. There's something shattering, and you have a clear sense of what it is about. That it's some controlling system of yours that you were so fixated on it being good, let's do good. And just so that is heartbreaking, for a part of you that you're not able to change at least all people for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, exactly. I can't control it and I have to accept the possibility of the worst case scenarios. And that's actually liberating. It's like, as strange as it sounds, it gives me a sense of happiness. It was
Yeah.
funny though, yesterday, like I was very deeply in this, and just sort of accepting it. And then I
Hmm.
go on my phone and I go on Instagram, and the first thing that comes up is this this guy that used to be a drug addict who cleaned himself up and then set up he started like painting people's houses like as a way of taking his mind off his addiction. And then he started like recruiting other guys off the street to help. And
Nice.
that created this charity basically where they like go around decorating people's houses and making soap they make soap, which I thought was so
Wow.
great. And
Clean.
they sell it, you know.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I was just like, oh, like that was exactly what I needed right now. Because like there is hope. I'm not,
Mm.
but sometimes you've got to really go into it and live it as fully real. You know, worst
Mm.
things.
Yeah.
And there's something about doing that that like it clears it out of the collective human psyche.
Yeah, and I think if this is a statement, but I think that it could be pleasing, especially to you as the scorpionic person you are, to look at that side of life. You know, that's like you're talking about with the descent. So I can imagine how it must be pleasing to a soul like you to let go of the positive duty almost. I mean, my teacher in astrology is a Scorpio, and I know that he's dealing with trying not to always be so pessimistic on the charts that we're looking at because he will see the limitations like the first, that's and so but that's his take on it. So that's what he brings to the world as well. Like what do we need to be really careful about? Because that's what he sees with that scorpionic lens. So I can imagine that as you're sharing that there's that, oh yeah, I can actually be this. I am Scorpio and I see the worst, and that's okay.
Yeah, like that's a part of the breaking, like the need to resist or pretend that things are a different way is just
Yeah,
like I feel very unburdened of that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's the freedom to be myself. Um, I I once channeled this Tibetan deity called Mahakala, who is like the male version of Kali, notorious kind of very powerful Hindu deity. And when I connected with him, one of the things that he said was, "Human, do you know your violence?"
Oh,
And what he was saying, like what was contained within those words, was like this sort of a fiercely loving imperative. He was saying like the whole collective of human consciousness pushes down its own violent primal instincts and it pushes them down into this festering swamp in the depths of the human psyche. And then that energy erupts out in the world as global war and
mm,
all of these like horrendous things. And when he was saying like, human, do you know your violence? He's saying like, to me, if I want to be serious about being a full human being and being spiritually aware, then I can't masquerade as being something that I'm not. Like I
yeah.
have to be aware of the potential for violence within me, the potential
Mm,
for violence that exists within all human beings in our primal nature, and truly meet that. Because when we do, we take like a little burden out of that collective energy. And like enough people that do that, you actually can prevent war. Like that's what he was saying. You know, like
mm,
that's how powerful that is.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure why I was saying that now. I guess just for me, there's a reason why I want to go into all of these things. There's a loving reason why I want to meet all of this
yeah,
stuff because it
yeah.
actually helps um, humanity to heal.
Absolutely. And that's why would you look at the worst case? I mean, only to help. So it's not just to be negative or anything. It's actually
Yeah.
like how can we do this better? Let's talk about what is really there.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of people don't want to do that,
Mm,
you know, and that was the sort of okay, the powerlessness part. Just
yeah.
I can't control that,
Mm,
but I can see, you know, where this is going, and then it's like okay, well, I just have to. I accept this reality. My hands are tied. I
mm.
can't win. You know, so my hands are tied. I'll continue talking. I'll continue doing whatever I'm doing, but I
But this
accept it all failing. Do you
It
know what I
was,
mean?
yeah, but this was one group on Facebook. I mean,
Well,
maybe
it triggered something which has it been there the whole time, you
I
know.
get that. I get that. Of course, it triggered something more central to you, but just like could other experiences maybe add different pieces to the puzzle here? And I mean, social
I
media, I don't have any respect for social media at all.
I guess it's more like, you know, I'm looking at global politics and I'm looking at the way that things are going and I'm seeing that we're repeating patterns that
Yeah,
existed
yeah,
from
yeah,
in the 19th in the 20th century.
yeah.
You know, at the beginning of the 20th century, I think we in Europe it was a relatively peaceful period. Things start, you know, there were the booms in the 20s and then like massive collapse and um yeah, my concern is that we're going in the same direction. And
Mm,
although ultimately that tends to be this kind of violent storm that leads to better conditions and more equality and all of these good things, um, it also can lead to some really horrendous things. And it's easy to kind of just decide in your own mind, well, that won't happen for whatever reason. But what if it does?
mm,
Like, can you meet that reality? Um, and yeah, that's the thing that I feel more comfortable with now.
mm. Even though it means we're gonna die.
It could, it could, you know, we could be facing something like that. Um, and well, it's not the end of the world. I remember talking to my teacher Fran ages ago, and it was a similar kind of conversation. I remember her saying like, you know, if all of humanity died, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
It would just live on without us. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, and what are we?
Yeah.
Like, I had a past life recall few years ago, and in the recall I remembered being a priestess in Celtic Britain during the time
Wow.
when the Romans were invading, and I was essentially captured by the Romans as because they were rounding up the leaders of the different villages. And in this recall, whether this is true or not, I don't know. But in the recall, I was burnt at the stake. Like they set me on fire in one of their forts. And I remember
Mm,
just this, like every time I talk about this, it makes me tear up. Like it's
mm,
part of me doesn't believe that this is real, but like I literally can't even talk about it without getting
mm,
emotional.
mm,
But I remember as I was dying, I was like just filled with grief. And it wasn't for me. It was because I was the leader of this community and I loved my people. And
wow.
I was convinced that they were next. You know, so that's an apocalypse event for our community. Um, but what happened as I was dying was the spirit of Gaia, the spirit of our living world, returned to me. And I knew with utter certainty that what I am is Gaia. I am the spirit of this world. And
Wow.
so is everyone in my community. And so is every Roman that is doing this to me. And all of us are doing it for the evolution of Gaia. And
Mm.
there's nothing has been lost, nothing has gone wrong. Everything is completely okay. And all that happened was I went from being this separate person to returning to something infinitely vaster. Um, and then I died. I went through this kind of black hole to a place of like peace where it was funny to even imagine um, pain or suffering. Um, and then kind of incarnated from there into some higher dimension where Shiva came over to me like
Mm,
and showed me this orb. He held out this orb and asked me to look into it. And when I looked into it, it's like I could see how all the souls in the universe were like weaving together to create the universe. But the universe is just like a living work of art. It's like the most incredible masterpiece that has ever been made, the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know that I will go back and I will suffer, but I'll do it. Like, I'll do it like a
Mm.
thousand times
Whoa.
because I'm doing it for this, you know? And it's
Whoa.
hard, I think, to live a human life where you don't see the context. You don't know why we're doing what we're doing. So even if we go
Mm.
through an extinction event and we all
Mm.
die,
Mm.
it's not the end of the world.
I got it. Yeah. Yeah, this is I'm really glad that you put it like this. I feel I finally understand it deeper now what you're saying. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
we are the world.
yeah. And that experience of like, so you say, oh, it's a recall. I don't, part of you don't know if it's real, but the proof is there in how much it's moving you and what you got out of it. I mean, how
Yeah,
can it not be real? That's what I think. And and if you saw it, I think it is per definition real. Uh, and that revelation, whoa, so you're like we're doing it because that's a question I can ask myself is why did I choose this incarnation? You know? And so you have like the greater meaning of your life in that experience, the why of why you're here.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm here to contribute to this immeasurably glorious thing, you know? Um, and my life isn't that important in a sense. In a sense, it's very important. In another
Yeah.
sense, it really is okay. Like I'm okay with dying. Like I've been through the portals of death, and
Mm,
it's scary, but it's not the end. And in the
mm,
end, what it ends up being is the death of fear. Like
mm.
so, it's okay. Um, mm,
Can I have a comment more here? It's just that story you told about a past life. You know, that's how I work with astrology as well, and that's a complete match to your astrology, like having been that leader and then having been rejected and even, yeah,
mm,
terrorized in some way, and then
yeah,
even that sense of being off the earth with your moon in Taurus.
Taurus.
I mean, I can totally relate it to your chart. I mean, it feels really and then the period you're in now, I mean, yeah, I know your wife is an astrologer, so I'm probably not telling you anything new. But the period you're in now is in your Neptune square. You're in exact Neptune square at the moment,
Ah,
which is a moment where I guess shattering could be a word where it's like you have to let go of what you thought was the structure you should relate to and live your life through. I'm saying that
yeah,
because your natal Neptune is in Capricorn. So there's like a whole new chapter of what you how you relate to the truth and
mm,
and there can be those disillusionments and feelings of something, yeah, really letting go in a big way.
yeah. I checked my what do they call it? Like like your chart for the year. I can't remember what
Yeah.
it's called, but I looked at that last year, and it showed that I'm in my is it called like the anarchic degree or something like the final degree in I think Neptune's in the final degree, and then something else is in the final degree.
So that's probably a progress chart, is it?
Yes, yes,
Hmm.
progress chart.
I didn't even check that out.
Yeah, and I like the friend that I mentioned before, like who was talking about this releasing the threads. Like he went through that a couple of years ago, and when I saw these indicators in my chart, I was like, I think that's going to happen for me this year because it's like this kind of fun. It's like ego death. It's the end of that
Mm.
chapter,
Yeah.
But within it, there's all these different layers of sort of the illusions that we tell ourselves about life, what life must be, and all these kind of, we dictate and say what life should be. And all of it is to kind of prevent it's like all of that is like a pane of glass that prevents us from actually truly existing,
Mm.
like in this moment, truly, truly being alive. Um, but moving through that can feel devastating.
Yeah, and I mean, Neptune is a profound presence, and it's also a higher love,
Hmm.
so opening up for a higher love than before.
Well, that's not here right now, but we'll see.
It's a process, Jack. That's what we're talking about. It's uh, yeah, you're going somewhere. It's not the conclusion.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about this. Like I feel
Mm.
pretty good.
Mm.
Um, I know it
Because you know it's
might not
right.
sound it.
No, it's like you know
Yeah,
this is right, so you have to look at
yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly. And it's not even like it's right and it's good because it will lead to good things or like blah 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 blah.
We
It
don't
just
know.
is,
It
you
just
know?
is. Yeah.
So it's like there's something very freeing about that. I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel very
Yeah.
liberated.
Yes. Good. Good. And thank you so much for sharing it with us, man. That's like the best thing that can ever happen is to open up like that. It's such a valuable gift you also have that you dare to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's in my chart as well. I think there's my sun conjunct midheaven, conjunct Mercury, all in Scorpio. And
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I was thinking like an authority in the spiritual realm, especially
mm,
spirituality leading to profound transformations. That is what
we'll
I was
see.
thinking. We'll see.
I'm happy to be it, but I don't think people want me to be it. But let's see. We'll see. Let's see
I
how it
mean,
goes.
Scorpio always comes, like you said yourself, with a lot of rejection because it is the truth that people don't want to hear. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable truth. So it can take some
Yeah.
time before people go like, oh yeah, maybe there's something to it, and it before they can take it in as helpful, because it's otherwise it can be triggering for them. To look at their shadow is per definition triggering if you're not open to it,
Yeah.
because it's like what we don't want to have anything to do with, right? Don't
Hmm.
go away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People are terrified of it.
yeah. So you just got that role to help the universe, and I thank you on behalf of the universe.
Thanks. Well, thank you for listening to me share it. I feel I can't even really remember what I've said, which is often the way that I communicate. I just kind of go into a flow and start talking about whatever it is that's here. So thanks for
Yeah,
listening. I hope it's useful.
very much so, very much.